Today we are going to be frying up some squash, and I'm also going to attempt to do steak fingers. I didn't have any cube steak which is what you normally would do steak fingers with, but Jasmine's never actually eaten a steak finger, and I usually don't like steak fingers because the meat is just really chewy to me. I don't like it. So instead, we're going to experiment a little bit, and we are going to make a marinade and use our flank steak. And I thinly sliced this about the size you would use for fajita meat, you know, just thinly sliced it while it was still frozen. That was a great tip that I learned from Kathy. And so it's just kind of been defrosting a little bit in this bag. So I'm going to make this marinade, and it's basically going to be what I would use just on a normal steak, so that if Jasmine doesn't like it fried like a steak finger, then we can just saute them up like normal little fajita bites, little steak bites. So this is kind of going to be one of those experimenting things that we do in a little bit. So first off, what I'm going to do for my marinade, I hope y'all can see my measuring cup here in front of me. So I always mix it up in the measuring cup first and not the actual bag. So I'm going to add some extra virgin olive oil to the bottom, probably just a couple of tablespoons worth. Then I'm going to do a dash of my Mesquite liquid smoke. I really wish they would have like little tops on these like they do with the Worcestershire, just make a little splash, but no, now you got to be really careful because it will come out really fast, and you don't want to use too much of this. Like just a little bit of a drop. Tiniest bit of a drop because it's very strong. Alright, now a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, a couple of dashes of that. See, so much easier to do it that way. I'm also going to add in a little bit of soy sauce. This is our low sodium soy sauce. Soy sauce and steak are the best combination on the face of the planet. Alright, I'm going to press in a couple of cloves of garlic. Get that. Garlic in there. And then let's do our second one. Get that sucker in there. Boom. Oh, I forgot to grab me a lemon. Usually, if I'm doing Mexican, I would use lime, obviously. But for this, I'm just going to use maybe one or two. Let's go ahead and try. Let's start with one. We'll see what that adds up to, and then do a second one in a second if we need to. This is a pretty soft, juicy lemon, nice and squeezable. So we're gonna do, oh, I forgot my handy dandy lemon juicer. And just easily set that. Oh, now it's not wanting to cooperate with me today. Oh, we'll put it down. There for now. Alright, let's squeeze our lemon juice in here. See how much juice actually comes out of that sucker. Pretty juicy one. But the acid in the lemon juice will help tenderize the meat, which is what we want. We don't want tough meat. We want nice tender meat. So you always want to add some sort of acid, whether it be lemon juice, lime juice, depending on what you're making, you can do like a balsamic vinegar or, you know, something to that effect. All right, I think 1 lemon will be enough for now. We're gonna do a little splash of our house blend of seasonings here. Our onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and slap your mama. And then I'm gonna add another little splash of some crushed red pepper. This is gonna be just to get a nice little spiciness to it. And then I use my all-time favorite Uncle Chris's gourmet steak seasoning. This sucker has been a staple for me. We spread this on our baked potatoes. Like when you cook them, you cover them in butter and then spread that all over it, and then you bake them. So good, it's delicious. I was not very prepared today. My little whisker. Alright. I don't like that one. Usually that's done in a bowl, and this one does a lot better in a bowl. Too small. Or too big. There's my smaller little guy. There we go. Alright, get that all mixed together well. And then I'm going to add in some beef stock. Because we only have a little bit of steak here. Enough for each of us to have like 4 or 5 steak fingers if we want it. So that's just about 2/3 cup of liquid all together. All mixed together. And there we go. That is our easy steak marinade. I'm going to take my little Ziploc baggie of our steak. And we're going to pour it in. It smells good. Gonna make for a yummy steak. You can smell that, the liquid smoke and the soy sauce. All right, you want to get the air out without spilling the liquid everywhere, right? Make sure it's good and sealed. All right, and we just give it a little massage in our liquid. Likes to have a massage, and then we're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes to kind of give the lemon juice a chance to really tenderize that meat. And then once that is done, we will come back and we will do our fried squash and our steak fingers. Hi guys. Okay, we're back now. And I have my oil heating in my cast iron skillet today. We're going to use that. And I'm playing my own cameraman today because Jasmine's busy with some work. So, this is new experiences all around. Okay, I have my zucchini and my squash that I have thinly sliced on I use the mandolin instead of my knife because I just feel like it's easier. Over here I have a couple of eggs that I added some salt and pepper and buttermilk to, and whisked that together really well. And then I have a mixture here of about a tablespoon of flour to 3 tablespoons of yellow cornmeal. And that is our base for our squash. I'm going to add some seasoned salt to this as well to get that good flavor in the crust of the squash, and I'm gonna add just a little bit of our house seasoning to just get a little bit of that flavor into it. Since I already salt and peppered the egg wash, the egg and buttermilk wash, I don't want to do too much in the cornmeal. So let's just get that. I blended the flour and the cornmeal together really well because you want it to be a pretty even coating of the two different bindings. So, but with fried squash, you want more of that cornmeal texture, or at least that's what I always had growing up, was more of the cornmeal than just battered in flour. I like that extra crispiness that it brings to it. Over here is going to be our flour mixture for our steak fingers, because the steak fingers don't go in the cornmeal. So they just go in flour. So I'm gonna add lots of our house seasoning to that flour breading. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of our smoked paprika, because we already marinated the steaks really well. Those actually have marinated for almost an hour. I got a little distracted. I just forgot about them for a little bit. But that's all right. The longer they marinate, the better. That's the good thing about meat. If you could marinate overnight, that probably would be a good thing. But these are so thin, we didn't really need to marinate them for an extreme amount of time. So I went ahead and I took the steak out of the marinade. I have it sitting over here on my little drainer to drain out any excess liquid, because we don't want them super liquidy and to go in the flour mixture. We don't want them super wet, because then they don't get very crispy. So we're gonna make sure that that drains off any excess liquid first. So we're gonna start out with our squash. And Jasmine's never had fried squash. Not really sure why. I guess that's not something we've really made very often around here. So let's go ahead, and we had a little bit of a scare earlier, because I don't know if y'all can see, but our squash has like this brown ring around it. So I was like, did the squash go bad? Oh my gosh. And so we looked it up, and no, it did not go bad. Apparently it has something to do with the way that it's grown. I don't know. It's still firm and not mushy, and it doesn't have like any weird smell or any, any other indication that it might be bad. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a few pieces to our buttermilk egg mixture. You want to be careful and not overcrowd things here. So we're going to get those good and coated in the buttermilk and the egg all over. Hope y'all can see what I'm doing. Yeah, okay. And then we're going to transfer this over to our cornmeal. Let's kind of drain off a little bit of the excess here. Flip them over. I don't want to get my fingers all up in there. I'm using a little fork. I might use our little plastic tongs over here in a second. So I'm just waiting on the oil. And I just did a fairly thin layer of oil on the bottom to just kind of coat the bottom. We're not gonna like deep fry these or anything. We just want enough in the bottom. Okay, let's see. I think that's all really good and coated. Let's take a pinch of our mixture here. Let's test our oil. Alright, you see how that starts bubbling and it's sizzling. So that means we are ready to put our squash in. Alright, let's go. There we go. Sizzle, sizzle. Don't want to overcrowd the pan, and at this point you also don't want to stir it or else you'll knock all the breading off of it. You need to make sure that that breading stays exactly where it's at. And now this usually only takes a couple of minutes for it to get good and golden brown and crispy on here. Alright, let's see. Do a little bit of a flip here. I have my handy dandy scooper that will help drain off the oil once I take these suckers out. You want to be very careful when flipping them, that you're not scraping the coating off. They're getting good and brown and crispy on the other side here. Alright. Let those go for another little minute. It's almost a habit to want to stir. It's a habit. Alright, this one needs a little brown on the other side. Scooch them away a little bit. Alright. And you have to be careful with the temperature of your oil when you're frying this as well, because once you add the things to it, temperature always comes down a little bit. So at this moment I have this on about medium-high heat. We're just going to let this crisp up for another second. Y'all can see, I think y'all can see how brown that's getting. Okay, I think we are good and crispy here, guys. There's our first batch of squash. I'm going to scoop these out, drain off some of that oil. Let's see, I'll zoom in right here. There you go, y'all can see that? Yummy. I'm going to place them over here on my cooling rack so that they can finish draining off the rest of the oil. Get on there. Yeah. Lots of cornmeal still floating around in the bottom. That's how you know you got it good and coated. Our test batch. We'll see what Jasmine thinks once this drains off a little bit. Alright, you can see I've lined a cookie sheet paper towels. And then I have my cooling rack here for the oil to drip through. So the reason I did not put these directly onto the paper towel is because I feel like that makes them soggy. Like the oil drains off into the paper towel and it just makes them soggier instead of crispy. So we put them on our cooling rack here. Let's make sure they're good and spread out, and they'll stay crispy. Okay, now I'm going to do a steak finger for Jasmine. Let's taste with her squash. See if she likes steak fingers and fried squash. So I have my drained off marinated steak, and we're just gonna plop him right into his flour. And we still have the oil over here that is still warm. We want him good and coated in the flour, all over, all over. Lots and lots of flour. Alright. Good and coated. Oh, let's see. Make sure we've got him. Nice and flat like a steak finger's supposed to be. Alright, let's see. Alright, y'all see? He's good and coated in flour all over. Now, let's drop him in our oil. Over again. Right on in he goes. Let him fry up for a minute. Right. Now, if she likes these, when all of these are fried up, I'm going to make some white cream gravy because you can't have steak fingers without gravy. That is absolutely a necessity, is to have the gravy. Oh yeah. Crackling and a popping. It only takes a couple of minutes. It's a very, very thin piece of steak. Need my apron on so I don't get oil all over Kathy's t-shirt from our Margarita and Taco Festival. I had to borrow a t-shirt from her. It's so comfortable though. Crisping up on the other side. Let it go for another minute. Flatten him out just a bit. Just a bit. I wonder how this would taste if I put it in the buttermilk and the egg before I put it in the flour. Maybe I'll try that one in a minute and see what that one does. Alright. He is brown and crispy. Look at that. Look at that. Steak finger, y'all. Put him over here on our cooling rack to drain. I'm going to try another one in the buttermilk and egg. Let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens when we coat it in that first. Alright. Drain that off. Into the flour we go. Don't want it to get too hot since we're not putting much in it at the moment. Alright, let's see. There's that steak finger here, dipped in the buttermilk and egg wash before we dumped it in the flour. Got that good and coated everywhere. Let's see if that makes any difference. See, didn't sizzle quite as much on that one because I turned the heat down. Isn't that fun? Don't you just love it? Ooh, juicy, coming out, coming out. Ooh. Kind of like the breading on that one better than the other one. And that's the one that was just in the egg wash first. Like the coating of the batter on that better. Yeah. And it's not quite as brown. Woo. Splattering. Need a splatter guard. I have splattering all over my kitchen. Maybe another minute or so on the other side. Get that, when those splatters hit, it's like, hey, steams for a minute. Alright. That looks so good, y'all. Let's figure out how to pick it up so y'all can see it. Drain that off. Ooh, look, it looks like it's falling apart. It's so tender. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that again. Like, coming apart. Let's see. See if I can get it from that side. Look, that right there is a steak finger, y'all. Look at how yummy that is. Okay. I'm going to turn my heat down really low so that Jasmine can come and taste test before we decide if we're going to cook the rest of this the same way or if we're going to just regular saute it all plain and simple in our pan. Let's find out. We got our squash and our steak over here. Okay. So now, you want to pick out which ones you want, Jasmine? And you have to try both of the steak fingers so you can decide which way you like it cooked better. Which squash piece do you want? Yeah, let's do that one and that one. Okay, try that one first. This one's still really hot, so I'll try that one. Doesn't want to be on camera, so this is this is an off-camera taste testing at the moment. I will taste. I'm gonna dig in on a piece of the squash right here, though. I don't know if y'all can hear that crunch. That's so good. I love the way that the cornmeal makes sure that it doesn't get like all mushy in the middle, because that's what I don't like about some things is you also have to make sure it's sliced thinly enough that it stays crispy all the way through. It's so good. Y'all see the squash right there is not soggy or mushy. It stays completely crunchy. You want more spice? We want want more spice, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's add, let's see, some regular pepper, regular black pepper. And then, if she wants a little spice, I got right here our hot Slappy Mama. And there we go. And sprinkle that in there. That'll give it a nice kick. Let's add some to the steak too. Why not? No. Okay, she likes it without it being dipped in the egg wash first. It's her preferred way of steak finger. So it's just straight up flour for her. She likes that one much better. All right. Well, let's let her test this one and see if that actually gets it spicy enough for her liking here. Let's do another dip in the egg wash, dip in the cornmeal, make sure it gets good and pounded all over in there. All right, let's turn our heat back up on our oil, get it warm again. I guess some people will have like a, I don't know, a digital thermometer of some sort that will help tell them what the temperature of the oil is. I kind of just eyeball it. I mean, why not, right? Alright, let's see. Go back over to our oil. Little piece of squash over here. He's just hanging out in his little batter. Just waiting patiently. Yes, he's waiting patiently. Ooh, let me try a zucchini one in this one too. I'm gonna try the zucchini. She just tried the yellow squash. Let's try what the zucchini tastes like, huh? That's gonna be good. Alright. Drain off the excess. Into the batter we go. Alright. Good and coated, pressed all over. Good, I think. Not quite as hot as that barbecue. Wipe my hands off. I'm gonna end up adding some more flour and cornmeal over here to our little mixture. Probably only has enough for one more batch. Alright. Get that going. And remember, don't stir it. Not until it gets good and on there very well. You want to give it a good little while to stick before trying to flip it, or else all the breading comes off. And the breading is the best part. Alright, let's flick. Yep, there you go. He can flip. Alright, there we go. You can flip. Perfect. Give that a good little flip and let it go. I promise I won't use these all today. So, yeah, I'm like, don't stop. Okay. Almost done, almost done. And I won't sit here and post like a hour-long video because the whole breading and frying process of the rest of this batch is going to be a little time consuming, so I just wanted to do the video to show y'all how I do it, let Jasmine taste test it, see if she likes it. That's pretty much what our objective was today. Also wanted to show you how I did my steak marinade. Alright, we're looking good and crispy. Yep, let's do a little bit on that side. Now we're good and brown and crispy. Couple more seconds. 1,000, 2, 1,000. Alright, that looks perfect, guys. Slide him over. This one looks great. Okay. Alright, drain him off. Yes. And see, and our fried zucchini looks exactly like the fried squash. Comes out perfectly. Alright, Jasmine needs to come over and taste test it to see if she likes that spice level or if we need to increase it, which I sure hope not. We added that super hot slap your mama mix to it, so we'll see. It should be hot enough. Alright, what do you think, kid? Oh, she's got to give it the extra super duper taste. Just give me 1 second. Is your mouth about to burn off? Heat hot, not spicy hot, but good enough. That's a win for today, guys. All right, I'll see y'all later. Y'all have a good night.